So I'm not gonna lie, I'm on the super hype train ready for Mortal Kombat X at any given moment. For those of you who don't know, I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan. Ironically, it's actually just about as old as I am. My only huge upset with the game is the fact that for some reason after Armageddon they just chose to ignore Nintendo completely. That pisses me off, but I guess it's a good profit for Sony because Microsoft doesn't interest me. But I was thinking about what were the most unique and interesting fatalities to me. So that's what I came up with. This again is my list, so if you have different opinions, that's cool. Just try and not blow things out of proportion. That's all I ask. Now the first two I'm going to do, I don't really count as part of the list. These just kind of hit me because they're the most amusing ones to me. And that's going to be the Bell Tower from Mortal Kombat 3 or Trilogy. I think it's Trilogy actually, just Trilogy. Where you'll get knocked down flights of stairs and then eventually land into a pit of spikes. I like that one. That was always one of the more interesting ones to me. The next is the ever hilarious fan fatality from Mortal Kombat 4. It is probably one of the best fatalities in general from Mortal Kombat 4. So, although they don't actually make the list, they're the next two that would if I were to find some way of fandangling these in here. Now I'm just going to say this real quick right now. This top 10 isn't actually a top 10 of best to worst. It really isn't, because I couldn't think of a way to organize them. This is actually more or less the order that these came to me. Number 1 being the first one that I thought of as one of the better ones, and then it flew from there. So that's more or less what this is. So in no way is this a hierarchy thing. It's just a, here's the first 10 I could think of that really interested me. And to me, the upside down uppercut that Rain does is just hilarious, and one of my favorite fatalities to perform. I don't know why they thought of it, but it's just great. I love it. There's not really much more to it. I should also mention I'm actually doing a rule where only one fatality per character. So because of this, Scorpion's Fire Breath is not going to be on here. Instead, I chose with what to me is the more interesting one. And that's because how often do you ever see a character get hung in a Mortal Kombat game? That right there stuck out alone to me. Next is the fact that you see the character in there for only a partial second and they're completely burned to a crisp. So that's why I like this one probably more than some of the other ones Scorpion's ever done. And I hate to also bum you guys out, but I'm not going to be picking some of the more iconic ones just because they've been used over and over again. No, in this list I'm after more of the ones that are original, standing out, and not repeated to end and end. Those ones get their dues, but I just like other ones more. This one to me stood out because, for starters, it's like the only good fatality inside of Deadly Alliance. So, I really like it. It's great. Something about the idea of an internal garbage disposal in Cyrax's chest is just crazy to me. And if I were to tie this with one, because it's hard, I would have to tie it with the net fatality from Mortal Kombat 9, just because when I saw that fatality, the first thing I thought was, holy crap, why didn't they think of this before? And I feel like Mortal Kombat 9 had a lot of those moments. But I'm going to pick the garbage disposal just because I find it a little bit more interesting and I don't want Mortal Kombat 9 to hog most of the attention. This was another one where I was torn between the two, but I felt the Scarecrow was probably more interesting than the Compactor. I like the Compactor for the simplicity of it and just the outrageousness of someone pulling a giant grinder thing out of their chest cavity and just squishing you to bits. But the Scarecrow's so unexpected that I just love it. Something about the panic of like, what the hell is this on my chest? And then it just opens up and you're torn to pieces. That's great. I love that. Like, that is a cool idea. So that's why this one makes it instead of the Compactor. So, love it. This was another one that I felt like was really, really interesting, and it actually made me go, oh, when I first saw it. So that's why I'm putting this one on the list. Most of Kenshi's other fatalities just aren't that interesting, but this one easily takes the cake. Something about throwing his sword and then knocking you into it just feels like for some reason that alone would be probably more painful and terrifying than some of the other Mortal Kombat fatalities out there. It's interesting, I love it, and holy shit, dude. That stuck with me. This is probably going to be the only classic one that I'm actually going to include because mostly it's just funny. I like when Baraka lifts you up, you're, freaking out, dying, and then you stop for a minute, and then do one more, and then fall your death, and that's where it's over. That's the main reason that I like that one the most. It's just funny to me, I think it's great, and it has become probably Baraka's trademark thing. I'm honestly surprised they never went to the extra extent where while he's holding you above his head, that he doesn't just lean forward and bite your fucking head off, because I feel like at any moment he could and would do that. So, I'm surprised they never did, but yeah. This is another one that I just felt was funny in an outrageous way, so that's why I love it. When I was younger, Mortal Kombat Trilogy was what I grew up with, so something about watching Liu Kang turn into an arcade machine and then just fall on you was just funny. I don't know if no, that's not on my list. I've never actually been able to even perform that fatality, but if I could, you bet your ass I would. It's just funny for how outrageous it is, and that's what I like. Sometimes you gotta be a little over the top and creative, so it's pretty cool, and I like that they did that. This was another one of those moments where when I saw it, I was like, holy shit, why didn't they think of that before? And then I found out that they actually did think of that before. It actually debuted in Shaolin Monks, but I didn't know that up until just a few days ago, actually. But all the same, that fatality is one of the ones that you look at and you're like, that's so simple, it's so genius kind of thing, and it's just great, so I love it. And I can only imagine it's probably one of the most painful deaths out there, so yes, good job. I also remember this sticking with me for the trailer of MK9 when it came out, and I was like, holy shit, this is gonna be good, because they are previewing that fatality, and man, did it ever start the hype train. There you go, that's the word I'm looking for. This one stood out to me because of just how ultimately painful and freaking insane it is. Noob Saibot, I don't recall him really having much interesting fatalities. I mean, I guess him bouncing up and down until you explode is kind of interesting, but this one tops it, by all means. They made Noob Saibot insanely, evil. More so than they did before, because now he tears you apart from the groin up, and that is just, holy shit. Like, when I first saw that, I was like, yeah, that really hurts. That hurt me to watch. That's so well done. I can't believe it, and I love it. So that's why this is making it very high up. So it was one of the first ones that stood out to me, and I was like, yep, this is a good fatality. So, again, restating, this top 10 is not a hierarchy. This is just the first 10 that I could think of that really stood out to me. And the reason this one stands out to me is because this is actually the first fatality I've ever actually performed. I mean, by turning off the fatality timer and then just playing around until I could figure out something that happened. Because technically my sister found out about Raiden's uppercut head explosion, and anyone could have figured out uppercutting you off the pit would have done that, but I'm not counting those, because this was me trying to find fatalities, and I found a fatality, and that was this. It was a simple code, so that is the reason why, and it also helps that Striker's my favorite character to play as in Trilogy, so that made that easy, but it's the most memorable thing to me because it's what I discovered, so that's why this was the first thing I could think of. But there is a few more, this was a hard list to come up with, because there's so many other good fatalities that I'm just going to go through them in just a second. But no, by no means am I against some of the more popular ones like Reptile's Acid Bath, or Scorpion's Fire Breath, or Sub-Zero's Spine Rip, which I feel the Spine Rip being such a popular number one, it makes sense because, that's what helped create ESRB. But I'm not doing it as, oh, here's the more iconic. I'm doing it to me as more, what's the most unique? What's stuck with me? Again, that's really all there is to it. I hope you guys don't kill me over it, but yeah. So yeah, as you guys saw, that was my list. There was plenty of fatalities to choose from. I really, really adore them. Again, I was trying to avoid being the cliche, oh look, Kano's heart rip, that everyone thinks about, and oh look, reptile eating your head. That like I didn't want my list to be the exact same, and I was thinking about, I wasn't even looking at other lists. I was just picking these off the top of my head. Then I looked and saw what everyone else chose. So yeah, that was what I thought. So you can say whatever you think. You probably disagree with me, but hey, whatever. This is just because I'm super hyped for Mortal Kombat X, and eventually one day I'll get around to having a PS3 so I can enjoy that in Mortal Kombat 9, unless Nintendo decides to grow a pair of testicles again, because they were one of the first consoles to have Mortal Kombat on top of that, so I don't know why the fuck they decided to just pussy out all of a sudden. It really pisses me off. But whatever. I'm Jace4R. See you guys later.